And welcome back, everybody, to the Billy Sunday Show. It is January 19th, Saturday at 1 o'clock, and we have started our live feed on Facebook. We are live here at the Women's March in Northampton, settled 1654. And what can I tell you? But as you can hear, the crowd is very lively, and so I'm going to just dive right into the topic today. Thanks for streaming me live on Facebook, and you can also catch this on YouTube. Although today we are operating on a kind of limited staff because of the fact that it is the beautiful Sasha Sunday, my wife's birthday today, 30th birthday. So we are out rolling around here, just checking some sites out. And there it is, the Women's March. And today's topic, which I think is very pertinent, especially for women, is the fascist movement. What is it? Why do you hear it in the news, on social media, and in the newspapers, and everywhere? Why is this? What is this? What is going on right now? And this is the reaction against a lot of different forces. So we're going to just kind of check out what those forces are in terms of fascism, patriarchy, which is what we hear a lot of today. And just kind of delve into that. The fascist movement actually started, to make it more conceptual for you, actually started in the Romantic era of France. You have a lot of German early proto-fascists, and it was really kind of a reaction against the Enlightenment, against the ideas of the people, and the French Revolution really scared a lot of people, and so they had to kind of come out and, kind of reassert their power. That was kind of what a lot of fascism started as, was the monarchy or monarchists or people who were aristocrats trying to gain power again. And a lot of the reason why that happened was because that's just kind of how philosophy is. We have an action, and to every action an equal and opposite reaction. And so from the Enlightenment, from this idea of equality and of power to the people, you have a spawn, at the same time, a reaction against that, a reaction for this hierarchy, for this rigid social norm that separates man from woman, black from white, gay from straight. This type of, you have to think like this, kind of spawned immediately, you might say, after it, or who knows, at some point during this Enlightenment era, you have these guys coming. You have a guy, Juan Donso Cortez, who was a very proto-fascist, as well as Joseph de Maistre, who, one of his famous ideas was the hangman, the executioner, is the one who brings justice, and that the whole matrix of society is strung together in a negative fashion through the hangman and through the executioner. So, that's the kind of thought process going on in these early fascists. Essentially, what would be termed romantics, but not the romantic camp that necessarily led to existentialism, more of the romantic camp that just kind of led to fascism, basically, you might say, in a simple way. They just kind of just started to rely more on violence and rigid social structures and racial paradigms, and kind of just stopped there. And that's kind of where we have modern day fascism taking root in this romantic idea. And the original fascism, the very first fascism, started in Italy in 1915 with Benito Mussolini. He started the fascists, and fascists I believe comes from a symbol in the Roman era, the fasces or something like that. Uh, Definitely don't quote me on that one. I need a fact checker on that one because that one was probably way off. But it is Latin and it sounds kind of like fascist. And it's basically a symbol of like Roman monetary and economic might. Um, and it's a symbol. It is the symbol. I don't know, my listener, if you know, you might notice kind of it's an axe head, and it's kind of shooting out of a bunch of sticks or like a bundle of wood. These these kind of symbols. That symbol in particular means fascist. It's a fascist symbol. It comes from Rome. And so in 1915 in Italy, you have Mussolini, who was the original fascist, El Duce, and he is a very particular character in history, in European history. He was very, smart, but he was also very violent as a child, and he got into fights, and he loved to stab his classmates with his penknife. And so that's kind of, that's who's going to be essentially the first fascist, quote unquote, in name. And yeah, it is pretty interesting to think about just how fascism started, just because it kind of makes it a little demythologizes it. People hear fascism and they think these giant overarching characters and dictators and like hell on earth and Satan and so I don't think necessarily that is the case. I mean, I do believe that there is an amount of evil in the world. I don't believe, however, that fascisms can't be explained, and it can be explained in normal practical terms when you look at philosophy and economic philosophy, political philosophy. Again, philosophy nerd alert is going off. And you have also, along with Mussolini, as the economic kind of philosophical germination of fascism takes place in 1915 with the quote-unquote fascists in name. Now they are fascists in name. You have the kind of opposition to liberalism, which again was kind of the creation of fascism. This opposition to liberalism. It was basically an idea that every man, his own freedoms are more important than the state, and the functions of the state should be to serve each man in his individual freedoms. This is kind of the classical bodily movement freedom liberalism that is kind of asserted in modern day when you hear the term liberal or liberalism. And it was very reactionary. Fascism itself was very reactionary against this, because you have communism and you have the corruption of the upper classes, because the stock market's about to crash now. Fascists come into power in 1915. About 10 years later, the stock market crashes, and all of the first world, everything in Europe and in America just goes horrible, and the economy turns upside down, and that kind of failure of economy is what allows a lot of these fascists who just say, we're going to bring order, we're going to separate this and that, and we're going to make everything good again, and it allows them to kind of assume power. And instead of people trying to find real solutions, like working out the relationships between the white collar, blue collar, aristocrat, 1%, all of that, they just are like, no, you do it like this, and this, because I say so, and if you don't, basically I'll kill you. That was essentially the fascist. And they came to power during World War II, which started, for the first time, it was known as a total war. a total war was a war in which civilians were oftentimes on the front lines. So you have Benito Mussolini here as the first fascist, who is the prime minister, basically the dictator, El Duce of Italy, and World War II breaks out, and a guy named Adolf Hitler is allowed to take power, and he also is very much a child of the Romantic era. He was himself a painter, an amateur painter, and Germany is known as being a center for Romantic thought, Romantic era thinking. And because of the Great Depression, because of the punitive way that Europe dealt with Germany after World War I, he was able to kind of capitalize on this grief. And with only, like, I think don't quote me on this, but like 3% vote or something, the guy was able to basically take control of the entire country. And he then, went on to do all of the horrific acts that we now associate with fascists and fascist dictators. And one of the curious things that I find when thinking about Nazi Germany is how they actually went to America to get inspiration for their racial purity laws. They looked to America to get their, inspiration. So fascism is something that isn't purely European. This isn't something that is relegated to the history books of World War II in Italy and Central Europe. No, this is something that the Germans and the fascists, when they were thinking of ideas on how to, basically kick everyone out of Germany who wasn't German, they came to America and went around in the South and saw these racial purity laws, and they figured out, oh yeah, that's a good idea. We should just do like the Americans. And now, we have this ever since then, because the fascists were very popular in America. America First was a very popular fascist movement pre-World War II, during World War II, and that led to kind of the modern day, here we are, folks. Eat your heart out, Benito Mussolini. What can I say? And, this is going to have to be one of my shorter shows, just because I am, like I said, on the road here celebrating for the wifey. And we're here at the Women's March. Pretty cool. Woo! Yeah! So, I mean, they said, oh, do you know the song Quiet? I think I heard. Hopefully they're not too quiet. Let's just put it that way. And we will be back next week. It is approximately 1:15 on Saturday, January 19th, and we're doing a little live segment here at the Women's March. Stream us live on Facebook, YouTube, and we're going to post this up on the CastBox for just a little, little ditty, a little bonus episode. I hope everybody has a good day, and God bless. Billy Sunday out. Alright, yeah, live. Oh, hey, you're still there. Oh, yeah. You know what? Let's take a walk. Why don't we take a walk live? Let's go try and stir up some trouble. Well, I don't try to stir up too much trouble. I don't need too much trouble, but let's have a little fun. Let's see if we can have some fun out there. Alright, here we go, guys.
I can't keep quiet. Who will keep quiet? Be quiet. Oh no. Woo! No, I can't keep quiet. No. Keep quiet. I can't keep quiet. Oh no, I can't keep quiet.